So, with the title of this, is obviously going to catch some people's eye. Probably going to make most people who are in the Western world maybe mad. I'm not really sure. I I'm the consumer. I obviously live in the United States, and I realize that I have to work in order to make a living and then buy things, right? And it's a cycle. It's a cyclical process that's there. It's inevitable if you live in America. And either way, you really can't outrun it, but you can find ways to try to outgrow it or try to limit that, right? Um, but my target is more so less on the side of consuming things like products versus the attack on the spiritual side, because there's an attack on the spiritual side for sure. And that is what's something to be cognizant of. That's something that's what people are preconditioned to consume, what people are preconditioned to believe, what people think they believe, what people think they know. And it gets to a point where, that dialectic comes into play and it plagues our judgment, it plagues our reasoning, plagues our judgment. And well, I mean, that's to no fault of our own. That is definitely more than likely our fault. Like that is a two-way street. And the problem with that is that people don't feel like there's a release from that. People don't feel like, oh well, if I vote Democrat now, well, the Republicans look foolish. But if I vote Republican now, the Democrats look foolish. So it's always one of it's always one of those things where it constantly grips that person. It constantly grips them to the point where it's going to hinder that judgment. It's going to hinder that reasoning. And there's going to be no spiritual aspect of this. And I'm not talking about enlightenment stuff, either in the West or the Far East. I'm not talking about any of that nonsense because there's no need for that enlightenment kind of garbage to go back and forth, because then it has turned into a revolution, counter revolution nonsense ever since World War II, basically. And the problem with that is that if it's that problematic and that tiresome in the West, and everybody's always memeing about it, everybody's always fighting about it, then that precondition to consume these dialectics are always going to be there. They're always going to be there because these dialectics are just so strenuous on our beliefs, strenuous on how we talk to one another. And nowadays it's gotten to the point where it's even become controversial to have a polar opposite opinion than what's the current thing. And that's an issue. That's an issue. I fell into that with the whole Russia-Ukraine conflict when people were trying to talk to me about how that whole thing transpired. And as an American, sure, I could find sympathies with actually both countries. But as an Orthodox Christian, which is above being an American, that hit me differently than a lot of other people. And a lot of other people just wanted me to toe the line. Well, I mean, that's just it. People got to think for themselves. And if you're just constantly in that consumption cycle and you've been told to just do that. It's just you have to believe it. Hook, line, and sinker. You have to believe it, hook, line, and sinker, huh? Hmm. That's a problem. That's a problem because it's not only a problem that, oh well, the West is justifying this as a moral cause, but it's more of a problem when you're preconditioned to consume, to believe wholesale on how they hide this stuff. And that's always, always the provable thing. There's always some kind of hidden message. There's always some kind of underlying evil to it. And that's what you have to be cognizant of.